Satanico here once again for God Loves Comics, and I've got a very small unboxing video for you today, which I've just wrapped up the lengthy and rather tiring reading of Ode to Kirihito by Osamu Tezuka, so I can get right back to doing some comic stuff. And I've just got one little package. It's not even an unboxing, it is a flat rate priority mail package with just a handful of comics in it, but I think they're good comics, which is why I purchased them. I try not to purchase comics that I don't like. So let's rip right into these. Don't see too many people packaging in a priority flat rate for comics these days. I did it a lot for graphic novels and magazines, but of course he's got it inside this pretty nice, I guess it's a Gemini, looks like a Gemini mailer, so which means I need my knife or something sharp. Okay, yeah, it is a Gemini mailer, and then he has done what I hate, and people keep doing this. It's already nicely contained inside the Gemini mailer, but then he has taped the comics down with the bags that they are in, so that depending on how badly he's taped them and how sticky the tape is, it absolutely destroys the bags. Okay, this is Scotch tape, so it's not so bad. The last guy that did this, and it was actually, again, high-grade comics. That's not the dealer, that's just the grade. The last guy that did this, it was so bad that it just destroyed the bags that the comics were in, and risked damaging the comics themselves as I was trying to peel the tape off. It's really annoying, and this one's moderately annoying, but the Scotch tape is not so bad, thankfully. Still, he's put like 3 or 4 pieces of tape on each side, and really unnecessary. These things are sealed up pretty well in the Gemini mailer, which has like an interior sort of casing, and they don't need, if you're gonna put tape on these, put them in another bag, because you know you could put this easily in a magazine size bag, or just wrap it in like some printing paper and then put the tape around the paper, so I don't have to laboriously try to peel tape off of bags without damaging the bags, damaging the comics inside. It's just really stupid. But okay, so these are all Bronze Age comics, and start off with the easy ones. There's only a few issues here. Now, I got this issue already. This is, again, Joe Kubert, and this is the first DC issue, as you can see, of Tarzan of the Apes. Beautiful Joe Kubert. But the one that I got was just a beat-up reader copy, and so I saw this, and my whole purpose with this order was just this one comic that I saw on eBay. But of course, when you only see one comic and the seller has other comics that are cheap and you can just go ahead and pick those up and combine shipping, then it's certainly worth it. And that's pretty much what I did here, because I think these comics were in the I mean, they were all auctions, but nobody was touching these auctions. So I think they were in the 99 cents to maybe $2.69 range or something. And this is a really nice copy. For whatever reason, Tarzan and the Kubert era, a lot of times the comics are pretty beat up. People really read these comics and maybe didn't bag them or take that good a care of them. At least the ones I've seen. I don't usually see too high grade of comics in Tarzan, and this is really nice and flat. The main problems I see are some foxing, which I really don't like, but I'm pretty sure I saw that on the photograph, on the picture, because I just went over them with a fine-tooth comb. And you've got Tarzan number 1, or I should say 207, the first appearance for DC, and then you've got this second DC issue, which is also beautiful. This is another really beautiful copy and beautiful Joe Kubert art. And and like I said, I think all of these were under $2, and I basically just bought them to combine the shipping with the slightly bigger ticket item. When I say big ticket item, as I always preface, I'm not the guy buying Amazing Fantasy 15 or Spider-Man or FF number 1 or whatever. I'm, talking about $40, $50 comic is a big ticket item for me. And then there is number 3, beautiful cover. All 3 of these, really happy with them, just looking at them in the bags. They're all really nice and flat. This is, an era when there were 52 pages, so they're sort of square bound, even though they do have the saddle stitch, they do have the staples in, but you can still read the title and the price and everything on the spine. And so a lot of times these are a little bit rolled, and as I said, they're usually a little bit dog-eared and creased up and beat up. And these are all really nice copies, beautiful Joe Kubert art. So I really like these. Very happy to get them. Art first, commerce a distant second or third for me. And Joe Kubert, these will probably never be tremendously collectible. I mean, they're collectible, but they'll never be like, valuable comics. Nobody's going to say, wow, it's an amazing key. Tarzan, the first appearance in DC, even though it's issue number 207. What? And people aren't going to go ape shit, no pun intended, over Joe Kubert art because it was so ubiquitous throughout the Bronze Age. But I love it. It's beautiful, and I'm looking forward to looking through these. And then here is the piece de resistance. And I've got a little bit of preface to this, and I'm looking at this, and wow, it is gorgeous. This is beautiful. I looked at it over and over and over again before this auction ended, and turn off that fan, and looking at it in person, it is absolutely exquisite. There it is, another Conan, another Barry Wndosor-Smith Conan. I do have this issue already, but this issue is not only near mint, it's raw, obviously, but it looks like a contender for a 9.8, or at the very least a 9.6, which is, I was really hoping that this was maybe a 9.8, and looking at it, it looks like there's just a slight bit of a dent right there. A slight bit of, like, the cover is just curled in ever so slightly. So that may be a flaw. Tiniest production error in the corner. And then the bottom corners look fantastic. The spine. Okay, I see one spine tick. And it is really small. And possibly another one at the bottom. So that might knock it down. It is a really small, almost imperceptible spine tick. But of course, if I take it out of the bag, it'll be more obvious. So, pending, I mean, I still think this could be in the 9.8, and I think it's definitely in the 9.6 or 9.4. Now, I paid $43 for this, so it's not like I got a steal on it. Nobody's going wild for this issue either, but this is a minor key in the sense that it's the first Elric of Melnibone. It's Barry Wndosor-Smith, of course, and also is co-written by Elric's creator, Michael Moorcock, with Roy Thomas. And so it's a minor key because it's the very first Elric. It's also, again, you know, just a beautiful Bronze Age comic drawn by Barry Wndosor-Smith, of which there are so few, or too few, certainly. And the thing that occurred to me when thinking about these comics, you know, from the Bronze Age, particularly, like, the Conan run was the very early 70s. And so, say this comic's 1972. You're talking now, and it just stuns me that you're talking like comics are 45, 46 years old, closing in very, very soon on 50-year-old comics. And if you grew up sort of collecting or buying in the Bronze Age, even in the 80s, you know, closing in on Copper Age or whatever, Golden Age comics seem so old and so rare and so precious and so unattainable. And there was no internet, so, you know, you had to know someone. You had to have access to a major dealer. You had to have money, and you were a kid, so you certainly didn't. Even if you're talking, you know, some ridiculous, amazing Golden Age keys and just ancient comics were actually pretty cheap in the Bronze Age, they were still way too expensive for me and for most kids. But the weird thing now is that the Bronze Age does not seem that long ago to me. And when you're talking about closing in on 50 years, the proximity of the Bronze Age to the current age is now almost the same as it was when you were collecting in the Bronze Age and looking back at the Golden Age comics. In fact, it's actually considerably longer, because Golden Age comics, I mean, if you're thinking in sort of the prime time of the Golden Age in the 1940s, then technically they were really only sometimes 30, 40 years old, and now you're talking about Bronze Age comics being close to 50 years old. It's just crazy. Of course, Golden Age comics were still a lot more precious and a lot more rare in the sense of getting high-grade issues or mid-grade issues, because there wasn't the collectible market back then. There wasn't the availability of bags that perfectly fit your comics and backing boards and all of this, you know, all of this that's built up around the collector's market that kind of sort of came into fruition in the Bronze Age and obviously perpetuated tremendously since then. So I was looking at this comic in very high grade. Now, $43, as I said, it's not like I got a steal on it or anything. That's about kind of the going price. But in 9.8, this comic sold for $2,111 on Comic Connect. I think that's the highest this comic is sold for. That was back in 2011. I actually think that Conan is going up in value now because Marvel has regained the license. Some people have disagreed with that, and but I don't see it going down in value because Marvel has the license. I see Marvel putting out new series of Conan, and possibly, who knows, if Disney has the rights to Conan on, you know, film or movies or whatever, you know, that could come back into play. But I don't see Conan going down because of that. I think it will go up. I bought this because it's just too beautiful a copy to pass up. And whether it's a 9.8 or not, I mean, the point is that a 9.8 sold for $2,000. A 9.6, and that was on Comic Connect, a 9.6 that was from the Rocky Mountain Pedigree collection sold for $835. And the 9.8, I can look at it on Comic Connect and, you know, the maximum size. It's not even, this is a much better wrap. You can see the 9.8 that sold in 2011 has a white. You can see the white. This one is almost perfect. The white that you see here is just a backing board. It is perfectly wrapped as far as I can tell, and it's really well centered. Nothing's cut off. You know, the M is not cut off. Nothing's cut off at the bottom. The Marvel Comics group is actually very straight, beautiful copy, totally worth it. Anywhere from 9.4 to 9.8. I know that sounds like a pretty broad, you know, and maybe the 9.8 is pretty wishful thinking, but it's a beautiful copy. Totally worth the price I paid for it. And I also have a high-grade copy of number 15 and several others in this run with the Barry Wndosor-Smith recently that I've, of course, done videos on. So that's it. I just want to show these 4 comics by 2 incredible artists, 2 legendary artists, great artists in the Bronze Age. Of course, when you're talking Joe Kubert, he spans the Golden Age and, of course, the Silver Age. He was actually doing stuff for EC Comics in the Golden Age and a lot of other, you know, publishers, but really kind of came into his own in Silver Age. Anybody who remembers Enemy Ace, and then, of course, all of the incredible war comics they did for DC Comics, and then he founded the Joe Kubert School, the art school that's in New York that's still going. Of course, Andy and Adam, his sons, are still going strong, and I think doing a lot of work for DC. And, of course, his work spanned right into the Bronze Age, where he did an enormous amount of work as well. So 2 fantastic artists from the Bronze Age and 2 very high-grade comics, and maybe another episode I will crack these open, particularly these Tarzans, and take a look at them, maybe do a reading, or at least just go through them and see this beautiful Joe Kubert art. But for now, that's it. It's a short unboxing, and I'll try not to babble. So hope you enjoyed this, and thanks so much for watching, and that's it. See you next time. Bye.